Christian parenting.
Welcome to the Living Wholehearted Podcast. We are Jeff and Terra Mattson, a husband and wife team who is shrinking the integrity gap in our own lives and helping others do the same. I'm a leadership and organizational development coach, and Terra is a licensed marriage and family therapist.
We believe that if you have a following, you are a leader, and how you lead matters. Whether you are leading in the home, work, or community, we are bringing you biblical, clinical, and relational wisdom to help you in every relationship that matters most to you. None of us do this perfectly, but we are leaning into the reality of our humanity and profound wisdom of grace. Well, it is a fun day for me because I have my oldest, Adonia, in the studio today with me, and we are trying to get through this conversation without a lot of giggles, because we've already been laughing. But I want to just talk to you a little bit about the role of being a mom and parenting our children intentionally by pursuing their hearts. And if you've been around a little bit, you know that Jeff and I do executive coaching, we run leadership cohorts, we write books, and we run the podcast together. We also parent our children together. And we started something called Courageous Girls years ago when Adonia was little, and I was just dealing with a lot of the reality of what it means to be a girl, the pressure of raising a daughter in today's culture, and just the things I was seeing in my office. And so I asked a few other moms, and I said, hey, let's start meeting and talking about the real issues and how the Bible speaks to these. And let's do it together, just so that we can hold one another accountable and be there for one another over the years. Well, here we are 9 years later. We started when Adonia was in second grade. She's now a freshman in high school. And we've taken those conversations from Courageous Girls and have revamped them a little bit so that they can be a resource for more moms and daughters around the globe. They are actually in a course now in different stages, wherever your daughter's at, called Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughters, in our partnership with Christian Parenting, who sponsors our podcast, so you hear about them all the time. So today, I just wanted to pick my daughter's brain and just let you hear how these conversations, this relationship, Courageous Girls, how this has really impacted her and in real time as a high schooler. We are in Oregon, so I need you to hold that. And we have decided, Jeff and I, we are called to public school at least this week. I think every week I ask my girls if they want me to homeschool them. So enough of that. I'd love to introduce you to Adonia. Adonia, why don't you talk a little bit about who you are and maybe give an insider trait to just the things you're interested in these days?
Well, I'm just ending my freshman year in high school, which is really exciting. I've loved high school, but there's definitely been a lot of challenges associated with that. I play volleyball, and I have for a long time, so that's been really fun, moving on to the next level in high school. And I'm really passionate about learning and reading and playing piano and that kind of stuff.
Well, let's just get it out there. What is your favorite book of all time?
Lord of the Rings. And the Bible, of course.
Oh, and the Bible, of course. But Jeff and I have learned a lot about the Lord of the Rings through Adonia over the years. She is so passionate about it and lots of different pieces. Okay, so let's start with this. When you think about back in the day when we started Courageous Girls, you were only in second, third, and fourth grade. And I know you don't remember all the ins and outs of those conversations. But what do you think laid the foundation for today? Now that you're in high school, what do you think was really those key parts of our time together that is playing a role even today for you as a daughter?
Well, I think starting at the base in Courageous Girls, we talked a lot about how much God loves us and that we can be rooted in our identity in Him. And knowing that we have a community surrounding us and investing in friendships and just knowing who you are, that really set the ground for where I am today and being able to be confident in who I am and know that the Lord was the one who gave me my identity. And so I think that's just the basic conversations we always had about that. Not necessarily sermons or anything, but just being to talk about who we are really set the base for Courageous Girls later on and now where I am today.
Yeah, so you feel like you could say you're confident in who God made you to be.
Yeah.
Do you remember a particular conversation or an experience that we had, or maybe just a principle maybe that you heard over and over and over that is making a difference today in your confidence?
Well, probably two things. One way, the thing that I heard repeated a lot was just that God loves you no matter the choices you make, but as long as you always come back to his truths and things. And so I think that always set me kind of on a path of being able to understand, okay, so it's okay to mess up and to learn from life, but also to have a grounding in his truth and stuff. So that was something that was constantly repeated. But then a conversation I remember that has really helped was probably when we discussed conflict strategies and being able to understand other people and their wirings through like the CVI and things like that has really helped me be able to kind of not analyze everyone, but be able to just kind of see from a different perspective and be like, okay, I can connect with this person this way. And that has really helped me to like know that conflict is okay and you can work through it. And so that was one that I just really remember a lot.
I watched that in you over the years too. So those two pieces of recognizing that our identity is rooted in what God says and that it's rooted in grace. So that is the tagline. And what we're always trying to remember is that God loves us and our behaviors don't define us. And so we talk about that a lot when you're little, and then we talk about it again here in the teen years, but the consequences are higher now. So when you're little, it lays a foundation, and little ones believe their moms and dads a little more. We start to get a more pushback naturally. So starting that younger really laid that foundation. And then the other part was talking about conflict and relationships and friendships has given you a chance to, one, maybe not take it as personal when there's conflicts that happen naturally between relationships. It doesn't throw you off as quickly. And then you learning about core values index and the different types of personalities. We talk about that in each of these courses and in these conversations.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So cool. Let's talk about your hair, because if you are listening, you can't see, but Adonia has been made by God with this incredible curly hair. And I remember when you were in 2nd and 3rd grade thinking we were going through the body changes and being confident in your body and who God made you to be. For girls, it's hard. I mean, you're in high school. So let's just talk about what you see in the insecurities around girls, the ways we pick on ourselves, the judgment of ourselves. Like, what are the things you're seeing in the hallway and just even amongst your friends?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I see is probably just people thinking that what everyone else thinks should influence how they view themselves. And so, if someone makes a comment, or teenagers are teenagers, and so I hear a lot of different things, and especially in public high school. And so just realizing that you don't always have to take what other people say and influence that into your identity. And so I think that causes people to have a lot of self-consciousness and things that probably isn't always necessary if you know who you are in your identity. So that's something I see a lot. And also just wanting to not necessarily stand out.
Yeah. Okay, so teenagers don't want to stand out?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
More like they want to be themselves, but in a group setting where they're not different from anyone else.
Right. So there's like this edge of like, I want to be unique and have my own identity, but make sure everybody else around me is similar.
Yeah. For sure.
That's really important, because not only are you experiencing that, but just from a clinical perspective, that is the stage of teenagers and why we're so heavily influenced by the peers, like what everybody thinks about us. So we've worked really hard over the years, having lots and lots of practice, saying, okay, whose voice are you going to listen to when it comes to who gets to say who you are, and who gets to say that what I made is beautiful or not beautiful. And it's always going back to God and those safe people in your life, those trusted people. And I hope I get to be that person and a lot of the other women in your life that we built that relationship with. But we had to focus early on your hair, because there's so many women and girls with curly hair who complain about it nonstop. So I remember starting really young with your hair and wanting you to know that God made it on purpose this way. And is it fair to say that you actually like your hair.
Yeah, I do like my hair a lot.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I can see it as that now.
What were those key factors that played into you actually liking it?
Well, probably knowing that it's okay to be different and that's fun. And so I kind of was able to accept that and know, hey, my hair's cool and it's different and that's okay. But also realizing that, it was from God. It was his reason, because I'm someone who likes to know the reasoning behind stuff. And so knowing that, okay, he was the one who created that and that's the reason why I have my hair, that helped me a lot. And just you and Dad were always like, your hair's beautiful, and would always emphasize things like that. So I didn't really have a reason to doubt it now.
Yeah.
Because I was able to accept that.
Yeah, can I just be honest and say there were seasons where you'd be like, man, it would be so much easier if it was straight and I just woke up and looked just like that girl over there, right?
Like
and,
Nevi.
Well, your
has
sister.
Straight hair.
Yes, and how easy. But the pros and cons. So we always have to just work through that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I did a good job of normalizing the times when you're like, man, Mom, it's a lot of work. My hair's a lot of work, or it's heavy, or, right? Those are moments. But a lot of people who would be jealous of your hair don't realize the cost. The literal cost. It's expensive, but also
it is expensive.
Product, all of
yeah.
that. But also just the cost of, I think any of us, we basically as women critique ourselves nonstop. So the voice, the constant conversations, the honesty maybe that I've shared even of my own moments when I'm insecure or the things I've been insecure about. Okay, so talk a little bit about, what do you think has been the most important part of having these one-on-one conversations and these group conversations every single month since you were in second grade? What's been the fruit of it, besides your confidence?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of good, amazing things that have come out of it and a lot of things that I've been able to learn. But I think really specifically, it helped normalize those conversations, because I feel like now in public school and things like that, and just, it's not talked about. Like the things that we talked about are not always as widely talked about or commonly talked about in not in like the view we talked about them, but just in like the comfortability of being able to, it's okay to share your emotions. And I think just because it started at such an early age, getting to kind of normalize talking to you regularly or having good friendships. And in a group setting, it helped create like being able to learn from each other as well, and not just one-on-one, which also has good sides to it too. So
yeah. So the benefit of the conversations every single month normalized it. It helped it feel like, oh yeah, these are just things we talk about. And now that you're in school and these conversations are coming up, maybe you're realizing not everybody has the benefit of talking about these things in their life with their parents or with anybody else. And then the group setting definitely does normalize it. I mean, we're all sitting around as moms and daughters talking about the same awkward conversation about bodies or dating or social media or all the things we want to talk to our daughters about. But when we're all doing it in the same room, it does feel even more normal for us moms too. And so that's the positive peer pressure of having these conversations in a group like Courageous Girls Group. Now, the Helping Moms Raise Confident Daughter courses are actually intentionally written so that a mom can do them on her own with her daughter. But we do encourage you at every point to join with a group once you've gotten kind of your groove on and you know what you're doing and your daughter and you have bought in. Then it would be a great time to invite somebody else to say, let's do these courses together, or hold each other accountable, maybe knowing that you're both having that same conversation that month. And then you guys can all go out to dinner and talk about what you learned that month. But the idea of having community. So let's talk about that. Having this Courageous Girls Group, we're not all best friends. People get this image of like, you must do everything together. No, we intentionally are pursuing our daughters' hearts and we're on the same page there. But when you think about all the courageous girls that are gathering around the world, actually, there's groups all over the world. What's it like for you to think when you're walking the halls of public school and maybe just that remembering like, okay, I'm not the only one. How does it help you to stay the course?
Well, I think knowing that you're not the only one learning these things and that there are other people out there it kind of provides a sense of hope and like affirmation that this is really a cool thing and that it really does have valuable things to it and that there is some hope for the future. And also just being able, I think one thing that I always enjoyed, because I'm not all best friends with my Courageous Girls group, but I am friends with them and have that history, which I think is important. And we're not all in the same grade, but I will see them from time to time or in the halls and just be able to say, hey, I know that person, and reach out and like say hi and know that that history is important, and knowing that so many people across the world have that history with different people and are getting to talk about like their lives and getting a little deeper it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. And when we step back and think about it, the fact that God's doing something on a greater level than just our little relationship, even though that matters to God, is our relationship and you and the plans he has for you. There's something he's got greater plans for with the young women growing up in today's culture for such a time as this. And the moms that are raising those daughters and dads, as you're listening, as Jeff has played a role in Adonia's life too. So people always ask me, what's the role? I know you say moms are important, but talk about dads. Like, what's the role of a dad, and how has the relationship you have with dad played a role in who you are today and how you're navigating your life?
I think my dad has taught me a lot of things, because you guys are definitely like wired differently, have different personality styles, but also agree on like the core things of relationships and stuff like that. And so just being able to hear his different story, which is different from yours, and getting to connect with both of you guys about different stuff, that has been really cool. And I know everyone's dad is different, but my dad loves the outdoors, and so I've gotten to go fishing or hiking and gotten to experience a lot of those things with him and get to spend a lot of quality time and learning what like a strong man looks like in the sense of founding in faith. And so I think that has been really important. And then just seeing how you guys always respect each other and getting to see, it's not a perfect relationship, but it's a model relationship of like it's rooted in God, and just getting to see that from both of your perspectives is really cool.
I know people are saying, hey, Adonia, tell us an insider tip on your parents' relationship. So when you say it's not always a perfect relationship, feel free to be honest. What are the things that you watch Dad and I model to you guys? Because we preach it all the time that our kids need to see real human beings in relationships. So feel free to share like one thing you've learned from us in terms of healthy relationships and the reality of doing relationship with the opposite sex.
Well, I think one good thing that I tend to see from you guys a lot of the time is just the fact of you don't always agree on everything, but in the end you come to a compromise or apologize to each other or try to problem solve. And so for something that fits the whole family or fits both of your ideas or combines everything together. And so I think that's always cool, is getting to see the teamwork in your guys' marriage. You guys are, however, you're both very passionate people and have a lot of ideas. So you tend not to always agree, and it can kind of take a while to figure things out on how to make this idea work. Because I know Dad's definitely like someone, if you have an idea, you're going to act on it right away and go like figure it out. And you're more like, I would like to think about it and all the different aspects first. And so it's good when you two like work together, seeing both of those sides. But when you can both kind of be stuck in one way or the other, it can be kind of hard to not be in the middle of it, but see the process of coming to a conclusion.
It can be messy. Yeah. And so that is the reality. I mean, that's real relationship. And we're practicing that in friendships as I work through that with my friends and girlfriends, and being able to say, hey, yeah, we have different wirings, but we benefit each other. We sharpen one another. So some of that's the gender differences, and some of that's wiring. You know, we talk a lot about core values. You even practice that a lot with your sister. So one of the things that I'm also passionate about is helping girls not compare and contrast themselves. It's just this dark place that a lot of us women find ourselves, is thinking we're not enough or we're too much. And sibling, like especially sisters, can struggle there. Talk about how Courageous Girls in these conversations has helped you with your sister.
Well, I think it definitely kind of ties back to the piece of knowing your identity in God and that you were created different from everyone else. And so being able to honor yourself and know, okay, I'm not always going to be as athletic as someone or have as straight hair as someone else, different things like that, just knowing that. But I was also created perfectly in the eyes of God of how he wanted me to be created. And so I think knowing that from an early age and just learning that and being comfortable with who you are definitely leads to the comparing not happening as much. Mm-hmm. But it also can be hard because I know that my sister is really athletic and really strong, and I definitely have to work at that a little bit more, and in sports and things like that. And so just knowing that I can also lean on her rather than wish I was her.
Okay. And then what are you stronger in?
Well, I think, academics can sometimes come easier to me. So then I can also help her and she can lean on me and not be like, I wish I could do this, kind of stuff.
I love that. And so it's freeing up everybody in the community, whether it's our family, whether it's mom, daughter, like us seeing the similarities and differences, because even that can happen between moms and daughters of the comparison, or you should be more like this, or I wish you were like this. In either way, I know daughters think that about their moms and moms think that about their daughters. But you're just saying, hey, let's just be free to accept who God made us to be and see the strengths that we bring and then the partnerships that we need to link up, like to be able to say, hey, you're really good at this. And we work hard at that as a family. And I think in our Courageous Girls group, us moms working together that way and then encouraging the daughters as well. Okay. So lots and lots more that I want to ask you. So hang with me a few more minutes as you're listening. Adonia, when you think about at the end of all of this, is there any conversation or thing on topic that you feel like was most important? You keep talking about identity and making sure that we know that who God made us to be is exactly how he wanted us to be. So that's one piece. But is there anything else we've talked about over the last 9 years that you feel like was so important? And I'm really glad looking back, or maybe I want to talk more about at some point.
That's kind of a hard one because I think there was a lot of really important things that we talked about. And there was a lot of different things. So trying to remember what...
I'm putting you on the spot.
What we talked about. I think... just learning how to build deep relationships and knowing like who you can trust was a really big deal of like, especially, different faiths, different people who have different stories, and learning how to build safe and trusted relationships, I think was really important. And just the process, how it wasn't like a one lesson kind of thing. It was like over time, there was a lot of little pieces that kind of connected on that. And so I think that was probably one of the most important.
That just makes me feel so good because that is one of the key components of these conversations, the slow and steady drip of discerning who can be trusted. So God can be trusted. And then we talk about, for littler kids, I created this red light, green light, yellow light analogy. And so that red light is the people who are what the Bible calls wolf in sheep clothing. These are the people who are out to hurt us, and they're the ones that a lot of us parents are freaked out by, right? The predators, the bullies, but often those bullies are the ones who are also being wounded as well. So if they're kids, they've got a story. But I'm thinking red light people are people who really aren't repentant. They are definitely violating boundaries anywhere and everywhere and have ill motives. The yellow light people are the people who are what the Bible calls fools, or these people they say sorry. They don't want to do these things, but they're just unaware, not mature, and they say sorry, but they don't have a changed behavior. The behavior doesn't match their words. So we keep them in the yellow light category where our boundaries are a little bit stronger. Maybe they're not our besties. We love and serve them, and we're kind to them. But it helps in our conversations over the years as we discern friendships. Green light people are our besties, are the ones who we're vulnerable with. And when we mess up and we have a grouchy day, right? We're kind of like, our wirings hit a clash, or hormones, are a real part of girl friendships. when all that's playing out, we can say, you know what, that hurt my feelings, or can we talk about that? And a green light friend is someone who would say, yes, let's figure this out together. And sometimes we don't even know where somebody lands in a relationship until we have a conflict. And how they respond to the conflict tells us exactly where they lie. So that is the paradigm of which we're talking about these different conversations of how to not be a bystander when there's a bullying going on at the recess or in high school when it comes to dating and discerning, gossip stuff, and what do we hold close to our heart and what can we share with others. Social media, it helps us figure that piece out. So it's a great paradigm. So that is thinking about red light, green light, yellow light, trusted friends. Thanks for bringing that up. What do you think from your lens as a freshman in high school in Oregon? Let me just remind everybody, in public school, what do you think are some of the key things that teens are dealing with right now that you wish parents really understood?
Probably that there just is a lot of pressure regarding grades or sports. And I just see that in a sense of people will be like, oh, I have to get this A, otherwise someone will be mad at me, things like that. And then they end up not getting that A, and so they just continue not even trying anymore or caring because they think that no one cares anymore. Or realizing that, like, oh, my identity doesn't matter, and so I should probably change who I am. And it can just be sad, or like the pressures of expectation from teachers. You got some teachers who really want you to try hard graders, who are great teachers, and then you got the other teachers who just don't care. And so kids perform the same, probably on the level of like the don't care throughout every class. And so just long term, I think it sets more like doubts into people's minds. And so I know that there is a lot of pressures within, my high school and in Oregon to change who you are to be loved by others, or to change who you are to please people, or things like that, or you just aren't sure what to do because I think there's not a ton of resources of like, how do I actually handle this problem? It's not like, oh, go see a school counselor or something. That probably is not going to get down to like the root of the issue or things that are really hard for people because there's not really a safe space. And so I think that's where like Courageous Girls was really important because it provided a safe space of girls who are in the same community and can understand what's going on, but also have similar morals and values and that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's so well said, Adonia. So the pressure is pretty heavy on kids today. I think anywhere where they're living as well. And it comes from internal pressure, external pressure from adults, parents, teachers, and then really not having a safe place to process when they are wondering what to do. And that is the number one thing that I'll just land the plane there, is having for you to know that at the end of the day, you can come talk to me about anything. And I might not have the answers, but I'm going to walk through it with you. And I think that is the experiential process of you learning that about God. That when I'm old and gray and gone, or when you're off on your own in your life, we'll still be here. And we're here to process and walk with you every step of the way. But what we're modeling is that God is with you and that there's nothing off the table that he wants to walk with you and process with. And so many people feel alone right now, right? A lot of these kids feel alone. So at the end of this, leave moms and dads and anybody else that's listening one word of encouragement, just something that's been on your heart, maybe something God's been teaching you lately or you keep coming back to that you want to just leave with.
There's a lot of things I could say. Probably that there's a lot of heart in the world that like we're living with, and you just gotta be confident in who God made you to be in order to walk through that. And it's okay if you're not always confident, for sure, but just remember that it's really good to have people you can talk to and a community, but also being able to have like maybe that one person who you can share anything with, or just know that this is not the end necessarily, and so it's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay. I think that's a good word. It's gonna be okay. And when you say this is not the end, you're meaning like eternity.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to clarify.
Heaven. Woo-hoo. Yeah.
Which is honestly sometimes what we have to talk about in the reality of like, there's hard things in this world and life, and it is not the end of the story. It's not the end of the story in high school, in second grade, and in fifth grade. It's not the end of the story, but it's also not the end of the story just here in this life and all of the things that are going on. So very good word, and I think encouraging. Okay, so if you are interested in taking the deep dive into Courageous Girls, or want to get the course for just you and your daughter to start, we have 3 courses out right now of helping moms raise confident daughters. You can go to cpguides.org and you can pick out a 2nd through 3rd grader. There's helping with confidence in trusting in God and what he says about you, that he grows the fruit, a lot of what Adonia was sharing. The second one is for 3rd through 5th graders. It's where you're going to be talking about helping her be confident in her changing body. And we talk about hair and eye and all the things, girl. And really, these are foundational conversations of getting comfortable with our own skin and why God made us girls and the funky parts and the differences that we all share as women. And then that last one that's available today is the 6th through 8th grade. And that one is helping her be confident in her identity. And we're talking about those middle school, young teen questions that come up for them. And it's providing you a guide. So I coach you moms. You get a video of me coaching you and helping you understand what's going on for your daughter and maybe even what's going on for you and what you could be working on or trusting God with in this process. Then you get a conversational guide where you get to be the leader for your daughter, building that trusted and safe relationship with her. And then there's a downloadable journal where she can practice having that intimate conversation with God, reflecting on those conversations and starting that habit of a quiet time and having that intimacy with him. And then if you're interested in doing it with a group, I would recommend going to those courses and getting that, because honestly, it's a great place to start. And then we also would encourage at some point for you to pray about the who around you and developing a community of others. And that's where we call these Courageous Girls groups, where together we're leaning into deeper relationships and trusting one another with our lives. So Adonia, thank you for being on the podcast and being willing to entertain all my questions. There was no prompting. I didn't give her anything ahead of time. This was all live. So you hopefully you got something just encouraging you in your walk today, wherever you're at. And at the end of the day, we're rooted in grace, knowing that God starts with us right here, right now, and he'll take all of who we are, and he does use it if we're willing to trust him with it. So that's the end of the day. We've got to trust God with what he says about himself and what he says about us.
And it'll be okay.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay. And if it's not okay, it's still okay, right? Because sometimes we have to feel it to heal it. Have you heard that before?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we look forward to connecting with you next week, where Jeff and I actually talk a little bit about how leaders live and with working hard, but also learning how to play and rest. So I hope you'll tune in for that podcast, and then we're going to take a little bit of a break this summer because we got to go play. We're going to go outside, go camping. We've got a lot of gorgeous terrain to cover here in Oregon. And until then, be the leader that you would follow.
This podcast is powered by Living Wholehearted, Courageous Girls, and the Christian Parenting Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us in this critical movement of shrinking our integrity gaps between what we preach and live.